Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. Here we are again with another Siege comparison. This time around we're taking a look at Sideswipe. And this is one that, especially if I do another wave of these guys later in the year, which is entirely possible since not all of the toys are available right now, and it will be about in the fall before all of them get released, so we may have to do this again later in the year. If you like what we've been doing with these guys so far, please drop a like for them in the comments so I know that you want to see the rest of them as they come out. But at any rate, today we're looking at Sideswipe, and from what I've seen in the lineup, we are going to be seeing this mold several times later on. As just like the Generation 1 version, there will be a version of Red Alert released on the retail market. For Generation 1 fans, we all know that Sideswipe was recolored and slightly remolded to be Red Alert. So we'll be getting that. Plus, they'll be doing a G2 colored version of Sideswipe using this mold. And he will be an exclusive. So far, no details have been released as to where he will be an exclusive, but there will be an exclusive that features Sideswipe in his G2 colors. And he'll be coming with a recolored Skytread, who will be painted up to resemble Slam Dance, a set of cassette warriors from the Generation 1 line. Rather obscure character, one I have not yet reviewed yet on my channel, but that'll be interesting to look at. But for the time being, let's concentrate on Sideswipe right here in front of us. Of course, the Generation 1 version, I have yet to review Sideswipe. No real reason in particular, just keep putting him off. Probably due to the fact that mine here is not exactly in the best of shape. As you can kind of see here, one of the clips is broken. I didn't notice that. All these years that I've had him, and never noticed that. Well, I've been knowing that his stickers have long needed replaced, but I guess that gives me an excuse. But at any rate, this is the Generation 1 Sideswipe, and it's a pretty decent action figure. It's one that is famous, or infamous rather, for having a very easy to break piece on its weapon, namely this launcher here. The clips on this launcher are made of a very hard plastic, so they do break very, very easily. Either that or it comes from kids trying to force it to go all the way onto his shoulder, and as you can see here by the indentations, it only just goes on, just barely onto the shoulder, and that's it. That's as far as it goes. It's not meant to go on very far. See, just like that, one click, and that's it. So, it is a very fragile piece. I am fortunate to have an intact one. I don't remember if this one came with it intact or if I bought it intact later. It's been that many years. Of course, Sideswipe was famous in the cartoon for having a jetpack, which at the end of the first miniseries, Optimus Prime borrowed to chase after the Decepticons. Even though, as you can clearly see from the toy, there is no jetpack. It's long suspected that Sideswipe and his brother Sunstreaker had their names switched from each other, as Sunstreaker's backside does look more like it's holding a jetpack. But at any rate, the G1 Sideswipe here isn't too bad. He is notoriously fragile, not only just for that clip, but as you can imagine, this roof and windscreen is very thin plastic, so it does break very easily, so do be careful with him. As for articulation, he's about standard for what most of the Autobot cars had at the time. He could rotate his arm at the shoulder all the way. Since he holds his gun rather loosely, he just threw it away on me. Don't lose that. And, of course, he does have a joint at his elbow, so you can bend his arm at the elbow. So it's a little bit more than what most of them had. But, of course, all he had for weapons is he had this rifle here in his hands. And, of course, he has a phosphorus launcher, which was mainly used to shoot off flares. Now we take a look at the Siege version. It's done up intended to look pretty similar, and it does a fairly good job of being remotely similar to how his G1 counterpart looks. Despite the fact that he's now made to be a fictitious vehicle, not a real one. I like the fact they didn't go with the bright red that's on the original. They went with something darker. That looks better. Of course, as far as articulation goes, he has considerably more. You can turn his head from left to right, and it's also on a ball joint, so it can look up and down. You can raise his arms up to the side, about so far. And while his arms do appear to be capable of going all the way around, this piece of kibble here does get in the way, but if you put it inside like that, the arms do rotate all the way around. You can bend his arm at the elbow 90 degrees. And he does have a swivel here at the bicep. So he does have the G.I. Joe swivel arm battle grip. He can be turned at the waist like so. You can spread his legs apart about so far, almost to full splits. You can raise his legs up at the hip about 90 degrees, and yes, you can bend his leg at the knee 90 degrees. And his ankle doesn't really move due to the transformation method. So all in all, pretty well articulated and begging to be displayed. But of course, like a fair number of his deluxe class brethren, he does have two weapons on him, and they can be combined. Up here on the shoulder, he has a W10 photopulsar proton launcher. So it's probably intended to be some sort of rocket launcher. And here in his hands, he's carrying a W5 gyro blaster. But of course, the two weapons can be combined. They seem to recommend combining it so the barrel goes behind his head. Like so. And then now, when they're combined like that, he has an RR Gyrofuse Axle Switch Hyper Blaster. Which, that isn't too bad. And it does leave his hands free to use a couple of Battle Masters. So that's kind of neat. But of course, when we cover the reviews for 6-Gun and COG, you'll see that Sideswipe is the best model for using them in their weapon modes, just simply due to the fact that he seems to be able to hold them whether they're in offensive or defensive mode. He's one of the few that can. Maybe someday I'm going to have to do a video that shows who can hold what of the deluxe weaponizers. But that's a topic for another day. Alright, at any rate, let's transform these guys and take a look at their alternate modes. And now here we are taking a look at their alternate modes. Of course, as we remember, the Generation 1 version was released at a time when they did make them into real vehicles. So he was done to look like a Lamborghini Countach, whereas the Siege version here is basically a Cybertronian sports car, but still retains some looks that I don't see this new vehicle mode being as something out of the ordinary for a Lamborghini. A little too futuristic, but I could probably see Lamborghini making something that looked like that. Or if we want to go in the movie verse, maybe Ferrari could make something that looks like this. At any rate, let's take a look here at how they roll on the table here. The original one was done when rubber tires were the norm. How does he roll? Very good. And of course, very fast. Of course, if you're going to be a Lamborghini, you're expected to go fast. Now, how about this new one on plastic wheels and with a slightly low-hanging body? He rolls pretty fast, too. That first time, he almost went over the edge of the table. So it's kind of, we got to be careful here. And of course, this one also has a couple of holes here on the sides. But chief importantly, he also has one right here at the top, so that you can easily combine the gun together, and you can mount that here. Or if you want, you can split the guns up, mount them on the sides, and then leave that open for a Battlemaster. Or put a pair of Battlemasters at the sides. Whatever you want. The options are only limited by what you have available in your collection of Battlemasters and the laws in your area. For me, though, at the moment, since the Battlemasters are not up here, I'm just going to leave it like that, as I've done with all the other videos. Probably because I'm waiting to see all of them be released and then try to figure out who looks best with what, instead of being stuck with with Hasbro's opinions in the instruction manual. Oh, well, that's just my opinion. Does not necessarily reflect that of the management. But it's also nice to see that the materials are totally uniform in the making of the toy. As you can clearly see back here on Sideswipe, we do have a little bit of an issue here. I can see it's coming off pretty clearly here on the camera. Some of you may be going, hey Sparkster, why is the back of the G1 car a brighter red than the rest of it? Well, there's an easy and very obvious answer to tell you that, folks. This back here, this is made of metal. The rest of this up here, this is made of plastic. So there's our problem, trying to match the two colors together, and as it's been shown numerous times on this channel with some of our GoBot reviews, that doesn't always work. So, and there's clearly a case for the Transformers where it didn't work there either. Of course, we'll talk about that in more depth when I get around to doing a review for the G1 Sideswipe. But for now, that concludes my comparison review of Sideswipe, Generation 1 and Siege versions. If you like this video, please leave me a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button down below to join up in our ranks. And ring the notification bell so you'll be alerted when I post new content. As this month we're going way off schedule to show off these Siege toys. And also, please share your thoughts about Sideswipe in the comments down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.